First of all, let me just start out by saying that like football gets a lot of media attention today. I think that football is, as we normally reckon safety, a safe sport. First of all, 97% of the people who play football don't play in the NFL and college. They play in rec leagues. If you've ever watched little kids playing football, it's more like human bumper cars than any sort of violent hits and stuff. And so, one thing people do is they take the CTE issue and they project it down and act like all football is under the same dangerous shadow. Well, that's absurd. First of all, there was a study that came out that said long distance running for competitive long distance runners caused heart problems. Well, if you use that data to say that kids in 5th grade ought not be long distance running because it could cause heart problems, that would ignore the fact that the problem with 5th grade kids is obesity and the fact that they're not running at major competitive levels. So I think football is safe as we normally reckon safety. And I think that's true at all levels, even the NFL. And I don't know, I can talk more about that. Most people who play NFL football are better off than if they didn't physically over the long haul. But I do think the NFL has a responsibility to be honest and forthright with all the data, and they have not been. And so that's a problem. But back to your, I talk about football because that's the one everybody likes to talk about. But it is a legitimate question that we need to struggle with to say, are all sports acceptable? And my answer to that is no. And where I like to draw the line or try to draw the line is that if the purpose of a sport is to harm your opponent, I don't think it's acceptable. Now, there used to be traveling through town, the baddest man in town competitions, where they just throw up a kind of a cage and people go and fight one another. I don't think that's acceptable because the purpose is to harm your opponent because nobody wins until there's a knockout. Right? Now, I do think boxing is acceptable, but I do think that boxing has to be regulated. For instance, they went from 16 rounds to 12 rounds for boxing matches, which has been a good thing because all of the data suggested that the head trauma issues were related to the late rounds. But boxing, you can win a boxing match in all kinds of ways. In fact, Floyd Mayweather is probably the greatest pound-for-pound boxer of this generation, and people tend to, after Floyd Mayweather fights, say they're boring. And the reason they say they're boring is he has no interest in knocking out his opponent. He just wants to win the fight. And he's absolutely quick. And so he just moves and jabs and doesn't take a lot of shots himself. And so you can win a boxing match with finesse. You can win a wrestling match with technique. I think where the line gets a little bit more blurry is something like MMA. That's where the line starts to blur. The point of the sport cannot be to harm your opponent, which that's not the point of any of the major sports: hockey, football, baseball, basketball. I've been honored to be with you, and anytime, Dr. Huffman, I can help you out, I'll do it. I hope you guys will check the book out and